Welcome to the Sprint 7 demo of the Spotlight project. If you're not yet familiar with the Spotlight project, we are building a set of plugins to extend Blacklight to allow curators to easily build dynamic exhibit websites enriched with the content from the repository. We're getting to the point now where we're starting to tighten up some of the default styling of Spotlight out of the box. We're trying to adhere to as much of the bootstrap styling as possible while finding a sweet spot and making sure that what we're shipping looks reasonable. In this and future demos, you'll begin to notice a cleaning up of the UI, both user and curator facing, and we'll try to point those things out as they come up. The team has been working very hard this sprint and made several changes to improve the curator workflow in various parts of the application, in many cases in direct response to feedback from these very demos. There were a few themes, and I'll touch on a few examples from each of them. We noticed that there were some less than desirable dead ends for the curation workflow. In order to begin addressing some of these issues and smooth out the workflow, we made a few changes. One of them is adding an edit button while viewing a browse category. Previously, you would have had to go through the entire dashboard for a curator in order to go and find this to edit it. Now we've added an edit button right here so that we can edit the title, change the featured image, short description, or long description. We've also changed various redirects around the application for the curators while they're saving and editing content. A good example of that is when saving a search. So if I were to save my Egypt maps search as a browse category, I'm now dropped back into my search so that I could then either maybe add a query or put an additional filter on to further refine my maps search. We've also begun to set some friendly defaults in the administration screens. We hope that this is going to help the workflow while creating content and give the curators what they're going to want as default behaviors and remove some clicks out of their workflow. And one of these examples would be in exhibit-specific fields. So now when I add a new exhibit-specific field, say for instance a display case, it's going to be visible on the item page by default. Previously, I would have had to additionally set this and then save the changes. Now, if I did want to put them on my list gallery or any other views that I have configured, I can still do so here. Another default that we've set is on our About page contacts. Again, if I create a new contact here, you will see that I am set by default and I don't have to have an additional click and then save the changes. Now we believe that when people want to save contacts, they probably want them to be in the About page by default. And now if I look at my About page, you can see that I'm already there without any additional clicks. I'd like to point out here with the sidebar is another place that we're actively working this sprint and will be working in future sprints to improve the styling of the out-of-the-box experience. On the About page sidebar, as well as the feature pages and some of the administration screens, you'll notice a tightening up of the out-of-the-box behavior. Another change that we've made in the administration screen is for consistency with some of our other admin screens is to add edit in place for our facets. Currently, on things like feature pages, you're able to easily edit the titles of things right in place, which is a very nice experience. However, we got some feedback from one of our demos that the facets were the exception to that rule, and you had to click on an additional button and a drop-down came to edit it. Now you can click edit in place and change the title right away, which we hope makes a very nice experience for the curators. A very nice feature that we've added this sprint is OpenSeaDragon support for our objects. So I'll pick one of our maps here, and you'll notice that we have an embeddable zoom, pan, and rotate, or zoom and pan environment here. with Sea Dragon. So I can click and I can zoom in on this map. I can click and pan across to view other parts of the map zoomed in. This also enables multi-items image support, which is really nice. So as you can see here, we have multiple images for this object, and I can zoom in on both of them and click back and forth to view them. This is an initial implementation, and we will be enhancing this in the future, but it looks like it's going to be really useful out-of-the-box behavior for viewing images of all kinds of formats. One of the final things that I'd like to demonstrate is a new widget that we added. This widget allows us to pull in the browse categories that were created using the Save This Search feature into About and Feature pages. As you saw before, I created some browse categories from some filter queries. And now if I go into my About page and add a search result widget, you will see that those two browse categories that I created, Egypt maps and 18th century Egypt maps, are both in this drop-down. So I can select them as well as any of the view types that are available to me and drop this right into one of my curated pages. So now on my About page, I got a search result of 18th century Egypt maps with per page sorting and all of the views that I would like to pull in. One of the nice things about this being a saved search is that if we pull in any additional items into our exhibit that also match this facet query, they will dynamically be pulled into this exhibit. Another really interesting example that jumps on that point, we can leverage another feature in our application, which is our tagging. So as you can see in our exhibit, we have one tag here for colored maps, and we only have one item tagged here. If I create a browse category for this by saving this search, I will now have this search available to me in my About and Feature pages. As you can see, there is a page here for Nicholas Sanson's hand-colored maps. I'm sorry. And if I were to add this newly created browse category for colored maps, I can now easily get those into my feature page. Now there's only one item there, so one thing that I can do now, which makes it really easy for me to enhance the content on this page as a curator, is as I'm browsing my content and searching for things or finding other interesting maps that I might want to add to this page, I can actually go directly in and add the appropriate tag. So if I tag both of these, and then I go back to my hand-colored maps page, you can see that all of the items that I have now tagged are in our page. We think that this will give our curators a lot of flexibility in creating and enhancing their pages dynamically and giving them lots of options on how to pull in their content into their curated pages. These are some of the highlights of the Sprint 7 of the Spotlight project. Thanks for watching, and we hope to have more great features and enhancements at the end of our next sprint.